I suggest we go ahead and get started. The talk on our end has started. We want to leave rooms for questions that you may have. Good morning. Today you're going to walk through with the team from Providence their journey for a major transformation to their wide area network, to their circuit strategy, and to their overall network. Good morning. I'm pleased that you're here, especially on the last day of the conference. With a big party last night. I'm proud of each of you for making it. As I mentioned, my name is Kevin Connor. I am a solution engineer assigned to our healthcare organization. I've had the pleasure both of getting to know the team at Providence and seeing the work that they've done. It's impressive. I really think you're going to get quite a bit out of this session. And so my primary job is to welcome the talent. And to my immediate left, this is Charlie Hagan, architect at Providence Health Systems. And then as well, Connor McCutcheon. The two of them will be walking you through the transformational journey. I'm going to give you a couple pieces of advice on the way here. Really three things that I want you to kind of keep your ears open for. Number one, I think all of you close to networking recognize that you're viewed a little bit as what's nicknamed the big bucket of no. The answer is, hey, gear down turbo, slow down your roll. I don't think I want to give you a port open or a new service just because you have a little project, right? And the reason for that is discipline, as you know, and real care around reliability. And so I recognize that the people at the water cooler don't, right? And so one of the things I want you to watch for here is how Providence took their network and turned it into a business driver. So just watch for that. You'll catch it. The idea of being able to go from the big bucket of no to saying, yeah, we can do that. We're ready for that. We've thought ahead. And we've got a reliable and flexible environment where we can start to say yes. Watch for that. Number two, physical environments fail, right? We were just talking over here with the gentleman from Connecticut that things like backwards exist. And no matter how well architected your carriers, how well architected the people who provide network services might be, there's always room for flooding last night here in Las Vegas and so forth, right? So the idea is not so much, let's get really perfect class of networking. Instead, let's think about what reliability truly means. And part of that reliability is being very focused not on patting each other in the back when you go through a major incident, but rather don't have any major incidents. Listen for that as well. And then the final thing, and this is really just my own kind of personal observation. I work in the healthcare industry, or I should say, I support people in the healthcare industry. And I find that the folks in the industry are very mission driven. They're saving lives, literally. And oops, I almost teared up there as I said that. But there's a real mission, but it doesn't keep you from burning out. It doesn't make you happy. It doesn't necessarily make you feel like getting up every day. And something really interesting came along that I noticed when I got to know the team at Providence. These guys seem very eager to wake up in the day. They seem very eager to solve problems on the nerdiest possible stuff in the world. And so I actually asked one of the workers, Jake, you're in the back, I'm going to call you out. Why are you guys so darn happy? What is it? And here's the answer that he gave me. When we embarked on the journey that you're about to hear about, when we embarked on this journey, we had a list of things that would cause it not to work. Literally, it's impossible to go through the transformation you want to go through without stubbing your toe, bumping your head, and failing. And so what Jake told me is we did the impossible, and we're still doing that. And think what that does in terms of just motivating you, of making you feel like you're really making a difference. And so I'm really proud to introduce the talent for today. So Charlie and Connor, why don't you take it away? I'll do one little thing. I'll just clear my throat and say, none of this should make you buy stock. All right. So I think I'll just leave you right here, Charlie, and then I'll just disappear.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right. Well, thank you for the introduction. We're happy to be here presenting today. Kevin introduced Charlie and myself, and now I'd like to tell you a little bit about our journey. Providence is a not-for-profit healthcare organization operating over 60 hospitals and 500 clinics in 7 states. In many of those markets, we operate the only hospital in that market. We provide life-saving care. We operate emergency rooms treating people who have heart attacks and strokes, and this is important to us. Underpinning all of that healthcare delivery is our network. A patient having a stroke or heart attack does not want to wait for the network to work for them to receive that care. The state of our network at the beginning of our journey was driven by organic growth and expansion. Over many years, which resulted in a fractured WAN topology. We had different regional networks built to no common standard. We had distinct networks which were unable to be unified because of overlapping IP space. Similar to our internal connectivity, our external connectivity with our business partners was fractured, cobbled together from many different regional models to many different standards with many challenges. All in all, a little bit of a Frankenstein's network of a monster. Many different pieces stitched together, struggling to operate as a whole. It just presented management challenges. We had outages that were preventable. This description of our network may resonate with you if your organization is grown organically or has mergers and acquisitions driving its structure. And so we're excited to be able to share with you our journey and the path we took, and hope that it provides some ideas or inspires you to think about how to solve problems in your own network, and how to solve some of the challenges that you meet along the way in novel ways. So what did we do about all of this? Well, we consolidated to a single routing design, enterprise-wide. We standardized on a single routing platform. We remediated all of this overlapping IP space. We unified disparate routing domains, and we set enterprise-wide standards. Simple, right? Just a few weeks worth of work. But the result was one Providence network, leveraging a single national carrier at our hospitals and an internet-based VPN solution at our smaller clinics. A unified enterprise-wide routing domain. But we still had problems. This consolidation and unification effort of our fractured network addressed many of the issues. But the selection of a single national carrier was not without its own challenges. Among those were diversity limitations. When you buy from a single carrier, you get what they have to offer. You can only purchase service through them, and you're unable to take advantage of the expertise and connectivity that a regional carrier might be able to offer in a market. National carrier will need to sub out to a local exchange carrier in markets that they don't serve directly. And this results in accountability issues, because the national carrier is going to point fingers at your local exchange carrier, and the local exchange carrier is going to point fingers back at the national carrier. All of this results in increased mean time to recovery for failures for us. Additionally, the coordination effort between our national carriers and the LEC results in longer lead times for circuits. This slows down our ability to deploy new service or upgrade service and can set project timelines back. It impacts our ability to respond to business needs in a timely fashion. That national carrier may also have limited points of presence in a given market. So rather than being able to take advantage of extensive deployments in a market by a market specializing carrier, we depend on the limited locations that the national carrier has in that market, and that increases our latency. Finally, our national carriers and us didn't always see eye to eye on diversity. The definition of diversity and the contract language around diversity for them didn't always align with our expectations. There were numerous occasions where incidents like fiber seeking backhoes or carrier maintenance have taken both circuits down at a site, despite the fact that we ordered diversity for that site. And last, not carrier specific, but a traditional routing environment doesn't respond to impaired circuits in an automated fashion. We can detect that a circuit is taking packet loss, but the solution in a traditional routing environment is for an engineer to intervene and take that circuit out of service while we maintain it or have the carrier repair services. And for us, these outages impact lives. We often find that we're waiting for a third party to care as much about the impact to our network as we do. And to be blunt, you lose some of the upper hand when both you and the carrier know that they are your only choice for circuits in a market because you need to maintain a full mesh network on their network.
So we decided to go back to the table and re-examine our requirements and develop the following guiding principles. We wanted we wanted to develop the best in healthcare WAN, designing for both today and tomorrow, and to embrace change rather than depending on yesterday's architecture and approaches. We wanted to deliver the best application experience because our caregivers experience our network through the applications that consume it. We wanted the WAN to enable the business to be agile in response to new opportunities and demands, including absorbing bandwidth-intensive needs of new medical equipment rather than being the bottleneck. We also wanted to allow future growth to be rapidly integrated into the system. If something unlikely were to occur, such as, say, a global pandemic, the business needs to be able to confidently shift network-intensive services to new locations. We weren't necessarily interested in finding the cheapest solution. Financial stewardship to us is about balancing cost with quality. Unplanned outages can impact lives and cost far more than any savings gained from a cheaper solution. Fundamentally, it's not all about the money or the initial bottom line, but the ongoing cost of running the network and the impact of outages. So having gathered our requirements and defined our guiding principles, we came together and identified two divergent paths, one being a connectivity overhaul and the other a routing platform change. Though having one network with a single unified routing domain provided a lot of benefits, being tied to a single carrier imposed constraints and limitations that led us to explore a regional-based approach. This regional-based approach allows us to provision the most appropriate service within a given market. Having a local provider gives us increased accountability because in most cases that provider owns the fiber end-to-end. That provider can also be contractually obligated to provide real diversity, including fiber route maps. Direct circuit ordering with this local provider reduces lead time and can provide for a consistent cost for a given service within a given market. Also allows for more rapid bandwidth adjustment and respond to changing demands. So to interconnect these regional networks, we needed to design a private backbone and develop an inter-region routing strategy. We accomplished this with a 100 gig backbone converging on WAN aggregation points. For these aggregation points, we selected highly connected carrier hotels in each of our markets. We selected these locations because our carriers were already present, our backbone providers were already present, and the cloud service providers we work with had peering points on premise. This makes it easy to establish full redundancy with carrier diversity and makes them logical places to connect to the cloud, third parties, and our business partners. The backbone also enables high-speed data center to data center communication and cloud on-ramp, allowing for rapid migration from the data center to the cloud and to allow for larger bandwidth between our data centers for large data-intensive flows such as database replication and backup jobs. This doesn't, however, all come for free. It reintroduces a lot of the routing complexity that we eliminated when we moved to a single provider network, and we will now have to manage inter-region routing and route redistribution across multiple carriers. Next, our platform strategy.
So for a platform strategy, we decided to explore SD-WAN. Some of the issues that SD-WAN can solve for us are dynamic remediation of impaired circuits. This is accomplished through error correction and also through real-time detection and failover of impaired circuits, which is possible because of the tightly integrated telemetry and path selection decision-making capabilities of SD-WAN platforms. SD-WAN also allows us to abstract away the transport from the routing. We can worry about routing between our SD-WAN edges in the underlay while providing full mesh connectivity in the overlay. This allows us to integrate additional circuit types like internet connectivity into an enterprise connectivity model without having a separate solution. Further, SD-WAN platforms provide some management affordances. The ability to manage the entire platform, covering all of our circuit types in a single pane of glass, simplifies management. Additionally, the centralized management platform makes standardization of our configuration and design more straightforward. And that same detailed telemetry that enables path selection decision and impairment remediation is also presented in the single pane of glass, so we have performance data available alongside our management. So we've discussed the circuit strategy, and we've discussed our platform strategy. We had to decide which path we were going to choose, which route we were going to take. Both have advantages, but neither really fully met all of our needs. So to us, the solution was obvious. We had to do both. Or as Yogi Berra says, when you come to a fork in the road, take it.
By implementing both a circuit strategy and a platform strategy, we can benefit from the advantages each offers and deliver a solution where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. For instance, the circuit strategy alone reintroduced a lot of the routing complexity that we had before. Layering SD-WAN on top allows the circuit complexity to be abstracted away. In this way, SD-WAN enables us to integrate additional circuit types from the carrier which best met our needs in each of our markets, without paying the premium a national provider imposed. SD-WAN allowed us to bundle these circuit types together while leveraging a high-speed backbone to achieve higher SLAs. Either one of these would be a massive overhaul of our network. Doing both at the same time on a production network was obviously a bold choice. This required substantial investment in quality engineering and operations, as well as leadership willing to support radical change. Fortunately, we had both. So we had a good idea of what to do with our circuits. Next, we had to select an SD-WAN platform.
So our proposal was nothing less than a reinvention of our WAN. With stakes so high, our selection had to be right. We engaged a third party to build a test environment, and several major platform vendors participated and underwent an extensive test plan to ensure that they met our requirements and that we understood their behavior under load and failure conditions. On this slide, we've listed only a handful of the criteria in our test plan and by which we evaluated the platforms. And each vendor followed the same test protocol and was scored in each test case based on their performance in that test plan. To us, this extensive test plan was crucial because it highlighted the strengths and weaknesses of each platform. But more than that, it actually reset our expectations for SD-WAN platforms and what we believed was going to be possible. Having effective dynamic path selection combined with app-aware QoS and bandwidth aggregation allows us to commingle circuit types all the way from cellular internet to private point-to-point circuits, knowing that the platform will ensure the best possible application experience while taking advantage of the bandwidth available. With a geographic footprint and device count as large as ours, deployment complexity must be minimized. For this reason, we heavily weighed the zero-touch provisioning, orchestration, and automation categories of our test plan. Having a platform where the API comes first is critical to us. It allows us to build our own automation and tooling without having to wait for the vendor to build an API endpoint for a feature after it's been delivered. We also see the combination of zero-touch provisioning and orchestration and automation as a way to simplify our deployment process with an eye towards enabling site migrations to occur without any engineering hands on site. And because of the unique requirements in healthcare, interoperability with our legacy network was vital. It was necessary that sites be able to participate in both the SD-WAN and the legacy routing at the same time to ensure continuity of connectivity and to maintain performance while we're transforming our WAN. So initially, we believed link impairment detection and remediation to be of some importance. Really, it was through the test plan that we realized that for us, it was the most vital and the most important criteria for each platform. We now understand that the best in healthcare WAN can only be built on a platform that has truly exceptional capabilities in this category. One test in particular involved a voice and video collaboration workflow. And this workflow was subjected to test conditions involving HA failover, power loss, and also circuit packet loss of up to 20% while running on a single circuit. And only the VMware platform was actually able to maintain that flow with zero perceptible impact to the users. This was the most impressive performance of the entire test, and really was the one which reset our expectations for application delivery on an SD-WAN platform. And for us, this is where the business impact lies, because these applications are delivering healthcare, and if we can maintain them in the face of circuit impairment, that means delivery is continuous, and our network supports the business. So as a result of this extensive testing, and because we're here at VMware Explore, you shouldn't be surprised to learn that VMware was our selected SD-WAN vendor. In the time since we've made that selection, we've finished the final design of our network, integrating SD-WAN, and we've begun to implement.
So what this means to us is the WAN is rapidly becoming a strategic asset, enabling the business to be agile in response to new opportunities and demands, really delivering better service in less time. It allows us to confidently move healthcare delivery out of hospitals and to ambulatory clinics where we may have had circuit struggles in the past. It allows us to quickly increase our circuit sizes in response to changing requirements. And with our regional circuit redesign, we lost some of the advantages the enterprise-wide full mesh network afforded us, but our SD-WAN design restores this by utilizing different connection types and building tunnels between our locations on demand. Our traffic is dynamically routed over the most performant path. Note that the most performant path in each direction might not even be the same circuit type or size. This allows asymmetry to be an asset rather than a liability. Application-aware prioritization ensures the best possible user experience while taking advantage of all circuits and bandwidth available. Carrier diversity and SD-WAN link impairment remediation have reduced impact to our caregivers. In fact, during our very first cutover, we experienced an unplanned failover event during a morning executive briefing. This was user, not platform error, but But after the event, we were pleased to be able to surprise them with the news that we had had a failover. There was no perceived impact during their call. Since that time, we continue to see the same excellent responsiveness to circuit issues. The VMware SD-WAN platform provides detailed, reportable telemetry on the performance of our network.
In fact, we had an incident recently where we were able to use the telemetry within the SD-WAN platform to pinpoint an issue upstream of our internet upstream. So because our internet upstream at our data center was the endpoint for multiple tunnels for multiple locations, we were able to identify that only some of those tunnels were impacted by a carrier issue unidirectionally. In short, we were able to feed that to our upstream provider to identify that there was a peering issue upstream of them, and it was all available to us within the orchestrator and it was enlightening.
We're also able to use this telemetry to hold our carriers accountable and to identify degraded circuit performance despite the lack of impact to our caregivers. While it's always been possible to gather this information with adequate third-party tooling, this platform enables us to pull all this data from one place without the need for extra tools. We are rapidly configuring and migrating sites through a simple script, making the migration as simple as plugging the device in and swinging some cables. No engineer is required to be on-prem for any of these cutovers. This is possible because of the powerful API, effective orchestration, and zero-touch provisioning capabilities of the platform. In fact, we've done the majority of our migrations during business hours with minimal impact. Since the beginning of this conference, we've cut about, 6 sites, Mark? 6 sites over? And we began one at 10 o'clock this morning, and it's already been finished. Scripting our configuration allows for every site to be configured following defined standards and eliminating the need for manual configuration, reducing the possibility for human error. Any questions?
Question. There's a microphone up front here. I'll get the room. We have a room till quarter after. There's some additional folks from province who are that are also here who have been up the hallway. I actually want you to raise your hand. Jason, and this is Kelly, who is this with the VP of the organization. Be aware that
my voice is kind of fading today, so I'll use the mic. I have no knowledge of SD-WAN or experience, but does it detect when you have a location where one of the pair of switches is flapping? Does it alert you of the scenario so you know that it's actually working, that you're just experiencing a problem half the network?
Yeah, so I assume you're referring to the WAN side, not the LAN side there?
Right.
Yeah, so on the WAN side, it does automatically detect when that's occurring, and it will move all the traffic over to whatever other alternative connectivity you have at that site, and then wait a period of time for that circuit to become functional again before shifting traffic back.
Okay. And one other question, are you able to identify locations for, where your are, from your provider's point of view? For example, I've experienced having 2 circuits, great redundancy, and one was, and they sent the technician to the good one, took that down. Has this helped you identify things for maybe your providers, make things a little smoother in that regard?
With our circuit strategy, we've certainly identified and remediated a lot of those problems. We have, better contract language with our carriers. We have the actual fiber route maps end to end. So, if they're trying to tell us they're dispatching an attack to a location where that circuit isn't actually running, we would be able to tell them that. The SD-WAN platform itself doesn't really do that, but that's really the benefit of combining both of those solutions together.
Thank you.
What are some of the challenges that are technical, like originality? Yeah, the front end design strategy.
Well, certainly in healthcare, there's conservatism. Locations don't want to take outages while they're trying to deliver healthcare. And some of what we've done there is take an incremental approach, build the environment, develop our capabilities, and then test in locations that have lower stakes. At this point, as you heard, we're doing most of our migrations during the day while facilities are open. And some of the feedback that we've received is, wait, you're done? Because it's refined to the point where we can swing a cable. And as we alluded to in the presentation, that's done primarily by local desktop technicians. So some of the concerns about deployment in that regard are addressed through just taking the approach incrementally and carefully. Charlie, did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, like you mentioned, we started in lower stakes environments. So, we have some sites that are built similar to a large tier 1 hospital, but that aren't open 24/7. So we could start doing these cutovers at like 9 o'clock at night and have, 8 hours to fix any issues we might run into. So that really allows us to then be confident in our ability to do it correctly at the larger sites.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's for the sites we mentioned this week, it was as simple as we were using a different SD-WAN-esque platform with our smaller sites beforehand that also had an API. So our cutover now is as simple as putting in the site code from the old site into a script, clicking run. It builds the site in the SD-WAN platform and then literally just swing some cables.
And then in terms of sort of leadership challenges, I think the compelling story told here is that we'll ultimately be able to deliver a better performance and cost savings if we can take this bold step. If we can do both at once, we can get better deals on our circuits. We can pay less because we can avoid the national carrier premium. And then in the end, you're going to get less outages, which are also costly. And the ability to deliver that story and to make that really land removed. I mean, I think if we talk about the local level roadblocks, that removed the higher level roadblocks, or at least that conversation was easier because of that story we were able to tell.
So by adding SD-WAN, it's targeted PD.
So because of the fact that SD-WAN encrypts all of the transport between our locations, it improves our posture in that regard. Otherwise, we're delivering basically IP connectivity between our locations. We were doing that before. So it's in every way, it's either an improvement because we're offering encrypted transport or a step sideways, equal level.
Okay. Yeah. So we're, if you're familiar with the models, we're using the. Okay. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for all of our smaller locations, we've standardized on the Velo 640 platform. And for our larger locations, we use a pair of 3810s.
And so part of that for us is ensuring that we have headroom. We want to be out in front of network changes, the relative capabilities of the platforms and the sort of cost differential led us to choose the 640 because that has growth room built in. So if we do end up moving services to clinics, we can call the carrier and turn the circuit speed up without worrying about also replacing hardware in those locations, for instance.
Yeah, so we alluded to this a little bit before, but most of our smaller sites, they traditionally have about 100 megs of an internet circuit. But with our new circuit strategy, if it's a 100 meg circuit, it's being delivered on a gig interface, and our contracts allow us to scale that up rapidly. I think anyone who's considering doing this should do their own research and work, understand what's important to them. For us, like we mentioned, the most important thing was within a given market that provider owned the fiber end to end. But your mileage may vary and you likely have different needs than we do.
So we went and big deal in once.
So the basic process is for these locations, because they're already live, we're not building new locations, they already have connectivity. We're able to cable the SD-WAN appliance that's going in, the net new, behind the existing equipment and allow it to reach out to the orchestrator, register with its configuration, download its configuration, but in a non-disruptive fashion, because the external and internal connectivity are not yet cabled. Basically, it's like a management. So that is through zero-touch provisioning. So within the portal, we attach that configuration to the serial number. And when the device reaches out to the orchestrator to, yeah, and that's a process over which, or that requires very little from us. Our serial numbers are pre-populated within the orchestrator because of the association with our account at time of purchase. And so they're just available for us to configure. It does mean that we have to track which serial numbers are going to which locations so that the correct configuration is downloaded. But that's a logistics problem, which my recollection is our account team turned the feature on for us. And then after that, they worked with our VAR to ensure that all of our serial numbers were imported.
So the tech has to click the activation link or whatever. Yeah.
It's enabling us to execute on this plan without expensive on-hands research or engineer talent at every site. I mean, it's really allowing us to have the velocity that we do right now, and which we intend to continue to accelerate.
I would definitely push on your carrier and your VMware accounts team to help make that happen.
You know, a lot of what we've done has been learning as we go. So for us, this is a new platform. We've, I think someone said earlier, stubbed our toes. There have been occasions where we learned things through mistakes, for sure. One thing that we, I think, have done well is protect ourselves by choosing our path conservatively and being thoughtful about making those first steps after hours at locations that are closed. In terms of things that I think we would do differently, because it's such a new paradigm, such a new way of thinking about troubleshooting, the connectivity goes through, the connectivity is presented in a way that I think network engineers not familiar with SD-WAN are going to have to adapt to. So trace routes don't show every hop in path. You have to think about it differently. Where I'm going with this is, I think, probably an earlier emphasis on troubleshooting and sharing that knowledge with the team would have been beneficial for us, because we're accelerating our deployment and playing a little bit of catch up in terms of making sure that the teams are ready to support the new troubleshooting. But by and large, I think the process and the path that we've been on has yielded a lot of knowledge through those mistakes and through that learning. And so I think it's been pretty good that we took the path we did.
We have a couple. I mean, inherently with I assume you're probably referring to Starlink. Yeah. So, I mean, depending on where in the country you are, you're going to have better or worse results. So we're being in healthcare, we're certainly not using it as a primary connectivity option, but in solution or in locations where, cellular might not be accessible, it is a viable, secondary connectivity option.
Pretty well. Yeah, I'm not sure if I can-
Yeah. So, in our experience, in areas where cellular works, where you have decent coverage and decent bandwidth, that has been a better option for us. But we do have locations where that's not an option. Right.
There are sites for which our cellular backup has bandwidth constraints, both just because of the size of the site and also because of coverage at that location. But we also have, one or two provider locations for which cellular is adequate.
So in those locations you talk about where how has incidents
Yeah, so the ability of the platform to preserve our high priority traffic, honestly, at the expense of low priority traffic in those conditions where we're bandwidth constrained or otherwise, has allowed us to deliver the best experience we can under those constrained circumstances. And that's what we're seeing borne out.
Right. And yeah, all vendors do QoS, right? But what this enables us to do is define what is high priority to us. And then in the event of failure conditions or packet loss, where the solution will turn on features like forward error correction and packet duplication, we can say, okay, only for this small, 10, 20% of data flows, we want to really make sure that gets through. And, maybe you can't stream March Madness for 10 minutes or something.
originally was 4G or 5G.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, being in healthcare, we're allowed to take advantage of AT&T's FirstNet, Band 14, and data prioritization. So that, to us, is a huge benefit. Okay.
Or we could say goodbye. Any other questions? Well,
All right.
It's been nice presenting to you today.
Yeah. Thanks all.